Okay, hi everyone. We're going to be talking about resident voter engagement today. We're excited to host this webinar opportunity for folks to view on their own time as resident services staff. I know y'all are super busy. So today with me I have Adina. She's part of the League of Women Voters in Berkeley, Albany, and Emeryville. She's a really great contact if you want to learn more. Today we'll go over voter eligibility, documents needed to register to vote, online paper and other registration options in California, how to use online portals to register, the mail-in ballot and some of the updates coming up for this week and for the rest of the voting season, and then any non-conventional voter options that are available to folks. Yeah, Dina, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Adina. I'm Voter Services Director for the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. The League is a nonpartisan political organization of women and men who fight to empower voters and defend democracy. We have been around for over 100 years now, and we have leagues all around the country, and I think around 50 to 60 just in the state of California. So I'm really excited to speak with you all today and let you know a little bit about what's going on for this election and how you can get folks engaged. Great.
Awesome.
So the first thing we really want to talk about is, how do you know if you're even eligible to vote? So these are the things that you need to make sure before to know if you're eligible. You need to be 18 years or older on election day, a U.S. citizen and a legal resident of California. You can't currently be in state or federal prison or on parole for the conviction of a felony. I always like to clarify that even if you're in jail or you're in prison on a misdemeanor, you can actually still vote and register to vote. You can also not be found mentally incompetent to vote by a court. One thing that I always like to point out to folks is that even though these are the requirements for registering to vote, we are not the gatekeepers. So anybody who asks to register to vote, you need to allow them to register, because the registrar of voters will actually go through their application and make sure they're actually eligible. So don't worry about that. We have other safeguards in place to make sure that folks who register are actually registered. If you register to vote online, you will need to make sure that you have your California driver's license, or California state ID, and your last 4 digits of your social security number. That actually, I realize, should say and instead of or. And that's really useful because when you are looking up your registration later to make sure that everything's all good, you usually use one or the other or both to look up your information. You want to make sure that all of the information is kind of connected to each other. All right. Thank you. So here are 2 ways that you can register to vote, registertovote.ca.gov and vote.gov. These are both of the pages that you would see. I always like to use the registertovote.ca.gov because it allows you to register to vote, pre-register, and check your voter registration status. You can see there on the left, it offers many different languages, and I think that's really important when we're talking about accessing the vote. All right, you can also register via mail, although I highly recommend folks register online nowadays. There's so much going on with the mail, and we really want to make sure that that information gets out as soon as possible, because you need to register to vote by October 19th. You can, however, download the form in many different languages, and that's also great because it allows folks to get that information in a language that they're comfortable in. So continuing on registering via mail, you can pick up a voter registration form at your resident services office, DMV, post office, public library, government office, etc. You can also request a bunch from the county registrar of voters. I myself have like a big stack sitting right next to me. And you can receive a voter registration application by mail from the Secretary of State, or call the toll-free voter hotline, which is the 1-800-345-VOTE number. And you can also call that hotline if you have any questions or issues with registering to vote. I know that sometimes folks have questions, and it's important to know where you can go to get that resource access, to answer those questions. All right, so what do you do after you're registered? You definitely can check your voter status. you can go to that first website we were talking about, or this one, voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. You can also call the voter hotline. If folks say that they're registered to vote, we're still recommending folks check their registration just to make sure, because everyone is going to receive a mail-in ballot this year in California, and we want to make sure that their address is correct. Let's see. Yep, and in your voter status, you can also see other information about your voter profile. So if you miss the deadline to register, this is really important. The deadline is October 19th this year. You actually can still register and vote. So we really want to make sure folks know about the fact that they can get provisional ballots at their election office, vote center, or polling place on or before election day. And basically what will happen is they'll check to make sure that you are an eligible voter, and then they'll count your vote. Obviously, you don't want to have that happen. It's better if you're registered to vote. They don't have to do that extra step of checking your eligibility, and you want your vote to be counted as soon as possible, especially with COVID-19. There's so many different ways that so many different people are going to be voting in different ways, ballot box, at the polling place, or by mail. And so we really want to make sure we have folks vote as soon as possible. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, California ballots will be mailed out to everyone to reduce exposure to COVID-19, but you can also vote in person. And the reason why that is because some folks who have certain disabilities or language barriers have a difficult time voting by mail. And so you can still go to a polling place October 31st through November 3rd, at least in Alameda County. In certain counties, you can actually vote sooner than that. So definitely check out your registrar of voters. It will say when the polling places will be open. I think that some counties are calling them accessible polling locations to highlight the fact that they're really supposed to be for folks who have issues accessing the vote. Otherwise, we really are trying to tell folks to vote by mail or drop their ballots in the ballot drop boxes this year. So you can actually, one thing that's a tool or resource that I really like to highlight is the Ballot Tracks website. I know that everyone looks at the X and they're like, is this a legitimate website? It's actually through the Secretary of State's office. So you can actually track your ballot. And that's the website there, california.ballottracks.net/voter. I logged in and signed up there, and I actually got a message today, a text message today. Today is October 5th. And it told me that my ballot was on its way. So it was really reassuring for me to kind of know what to expect when my ballot was going to come. But not only that, it will actually be able to track my ballot after I mail it as well. So it'll tell me once it's been received and counted, which studies have shown really helps people feel like their vote matters and that it's actually being counted. So I really recommend that tool for folks, this Ballot Tracks tool. All right. So verifying your voting address, as I mentioned, we really want to make sure we check our addresses, even if you're already registered to vote, especially you might have residents who have recently moved to your facility, so they will need to change their address. We like to ask folks things like, have you updated your voter address this year? And like, let's make sure your ballot is coming to the right place, because we sometimes by asking questions like, are you registered to vote? You're kind of making assumptions about the person, that they can register to vote, that they may be someone who might not be registered to vote. So some of these questions that are a little more logistical can be a little more accessible to folks. All right. And here's, this is what the voter status website looks like. As I mentioned, you'll need to put in your last four and your California driver's license or ID card number in there. And so that's why when you register to vote, you want to have both of that and both of those pieces of information there. We actually had a woman call our office because she had signed up to vote, I think initially with her social security number, but not her driver's license. So for some reason, when she tried to look up her voting profile, it didn't come up. So she had to call that voter hotline so that she could add that information there, so that she could look it up both ways. So great. So opportunities for non-conventional voters, we think it's really important at the League of Women Voters that everyone be engaged in our democracy, regardless of their ability to vote. So even if you can't vote, there are so many different ways to get involved. Well, first off, 16 and 17-year-olds can actually pre-register to vote, and in certain areas, they will hopefully soon be able to vote for school board. In San Francisco, non-citizens who have children in the school district can actually vote for school board, which I think is really great. And regardless of people's ability to vote, we really want to be inclusive and let them know that they can still get involved in the election by helping to register folks to vote, or telling people about different tools, campaigning for different issues, just talking to their friends and neighbors. There's so many different ways that they can still be involved. Okay, so a lot of folks are concerned about being a nonprofit and registering people to vote. I may not have mentioned this earlier, but the League of Women Voters is a nonprofit organization, and there's a great website which is for nonprofits specifically about registering folks to vote. And this website kind of talks you through like the fact that not only are you able as a nonprofit to register folks to vote, but you're actually encouraged because you're working with communities that typically are disenfranchised. So this is some examples of opportunities, ways that you can get folks involved, just having a table at your lobby, or I always like, stickers or posters. If you have folks that like to knit or bake, they can do things that kind of like get their neighbors excited about registering to vote. It's a nonpartisan activity to register folks to vote. And so that's why nonprofits are allowed to do it. Another two resources that I really wanted to highlight before my piece comes to an end is votersedge.org. You put in your address and it tells you everything that's going to be on your ballot. It gives you the pros and cons of the propositions. It tells you who's paying for what. It also tells you all about the candidates. And you can actually select your choices on the website. So that way you don't have to remember who it was that you were voting for. It'll give you a printout essentially of everything that you said you wanted to vote on. You can also check out the League of Women Voters website for the Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville area. We are lwvbae.org/elections. So you can see candidate forums there, information about the upcoming election and resources. Even if you're not in our area, some of the information is still relevant. And you can look at it to kind of see other, you can also look at other local leagues in your area or your local registrar of voters for more information. I think the biggest concern we have this year is about voter suppression. So you really want to make sure that you're giving out correct information. So making sure that the sources that you're using are trusted sources like the League or Registrar of Voters or the Secretary of State's office. Great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, Adina, for all of that content. That was really useful, and I'm sure that it resonates with a lot of folks who are trying to find like what are some of the best practices that they can use right now. So I do want to just follow up with what Adina was talking about as far as being a nonprofit and the legal compliance aspect of this work. So as nonprofits, we do have the First Amendment right and can speak out on issues. So that's really when we're thinking about elections, as long as it's a nonpartisan perspective in the sense of we're just here to provide resources to folks. We're not swaying people one way or another. It's totally okay and within compliance. And it's also just making sure to be respectful of residents because these are their homes. So as resident services staff, we have to take that perspective of making sure to value everyone's privacy and not share their information or political affiliation with other residents. And the voting registration process is really can be integrated into the operational process, much like doing an annual recertification. It's an opportunity to just engage people in another process. So when we're thinking about voter engagement within affordable housing, it's all about building a movement. And I want to talk just a little bit about that and why it's so important to engage folks to vote in this last stretch. So the power of resident services staff is really unmatched in my opinion. Y'all are the advocates by design. You're building these long-term relationships with residents. And what that leads to is power building in our communities when it comes to getting people to the polls and making sure that they have their voices heard so we can center social justice and equity in all of our work. And the genuine investment that resident services staff is unmatched, as y'all really are there every single day making sure the property is comfortable for folks and residents feel happy. So really we want to provide on-site information and different resources to residents during this pivotal time. You can direct residents to voter information easily, either on our NPH website via email blast, if that's what you choose. We're also going to have collateral opportunities for folks to participate in, different posters and flyers you can put around your sites. If you haven't already put in an order for NPH collateral, please do so. I will send out that link. And what we want to do is provide easily digestible information to spark resident curiosity and make sure that they feel inspired to vote and that they understand the personal impact of voting. So some of the opportunities that resident services staff can do during this last stretch to the election, as Adina mentioned, connecting with your local League of Women Voters or register voters in your area will be really beneficial to get just the inside scoop on what's coming up, and also getting materials to register last minute folks, or to help people track their ballots, and then making voter registration part of any ongoing social activities, whether it be you'll have a meal program that could be an opportunity to pass out voter engagement flyers, or have a community space that provides social distancing opportunity. You can post different flyers or content in there as well. And creating a culture of participation and inclusion is always going to be a huge step to getting people to engage with voting. So some of the next steps that we recommend, if you haven't already yourself, please do register to vote so you can practice and you can engage residents. Host a webinar if you would like to share more resources with folks online. You can consider having a voter registration application at your office, or having like a tablet or an iPad, or even on your computer you can register folks as a way to get that application in digitally, as we are just a few weeks away from the election. You can still order and receive NPH collateral for your sites. You can be a part of our NPH community advocacy and voter engagement program, where we talk about long-term advocacy and what that may look like within resident services. And we're also going to be providing the NPH digital toolkit to engage resident voters. And within that, you can find different email templates, websites that we recommend you consider or share with residents, and other resources. So some of the important contacts for Alameda County, San Francisco, and Contra Costa County are the League of Women Voters, the Register of Voters, and then where you can mail your ballot to. But if you are outside of this region and you would like contacts as well, I can definitely share that with you. Please reach out to me. But thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and to learn more about voter registration for 2020. Again, make sure that your residents and yourself have checked your address to receive your mail-in ballot, and are also tracking your ballot. Hopefully you will receive it within the next few days. And if that's not the case, please go on to the website Adina mentioned to track your ballot. And yeah, looking forward to everyone turning out to the polls and having a deep impact on affordable housing movement by lifting resident services voices in the election process. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to me at asul@nonprofithousing.org, and I can also share Adina's contact information. Thank you so much for being a part of this video.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.